Hello, everybody. Oh my goodness, we have had technical difficulties galore this morning, and I'm blaming it all on Diana because she said that she makes airport alarms go off and
Yep.
all kinds of fun stuff. So it's all her fault, even though this happened last
over.
week to me, and she wasn't anywhere around,
No, I
but
was
it's
just
still her
thinking
fault.
about it. It was just from thinking about it.
Exactly. So this is Diana. And I met Diana at a networking group, a local networking group. And I think I shared in my Facebook post that one day we saw each other in the supermarket a couple months later, and she walked up to me and said, "How is it that we didn't know each other before now?" And part of it was because I didn't live here. But yeah, something about Diana, again, she's this interesting dichotomy of this really spiritual, grounded woman, but has this just juicy playfulness about her, this wit that's just like bam, and I love that about her. So instant kindred spirits. And I want to read her bio real quick so that we get to know her on that level, and then we're just going to kind of throw that away like we usually do and just dive right in and hear some of Diana's story around power. So Diana helps purpose-driven women entrepreneurs who have a message, mission, or a movement, and they struggle with how to use the internet to attract their ideal clients, make connections, and achieve visibility. She is a whole heart communication and connections strategist. Her superpower is helping her clients create their whole heart online presence to draw in their ideal clients. And she does this by using her intuitive gifts as well as other gifts to get to know her clients and their message, and then use her internet marketing genius to assist in creating and implementing a strategy to help them communicate, connect, and monetize. And I fucking love that you used the word genius. There's just something about claiming our gifts, claiming our brilliance. Absolutely. I love that. I love that. She is a marketing strategist, published author, national speaker, and successful serial entrepreneur. We'll hear more about that. With over 30 years of experience, is passionate with empowering entrepreneurs to grow their businesses, specializing in training on how to master the art of online communication, networking, and client attraction. And she understands the challenges of building a strategic and authentic online presence that will bring you the right clients, and has the patience and know-how to help you get through those challenges. She offers live and virtual trainings and also done-for-you internet marketing services. Oh, yep. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yay.
Always.
Yay. So how the heck did you get from kind of this corporate world to becoming a minister to deciding to use Facebook as your number one strategy in your business?
Right. Thank you for that. That's my life right there. You know, it's funny. I kind of have this joke about Really God, Facebook. So I'll start with how I got to Really God, Facebook.
Nice.
So I am a recovering corporate misfit. And, you know, I started out my younger years, and it was that I want to make a man's salary and I'm willing to work twice as hard for it. I'm from that era.
Uh-huh.
So I launched into I actually usually say I'm a recovering corporate hoe. And I'm actually writing a book, and that is one of my chapters. My
nice.
As a corporate hoe. And I don't necessarily say that is true for everybody, but it was true for me. And it was about, you know, I wanted to make money. I wasn't really conscious of how important it was for me to make a difference yet. And I wanted that prestige. And so I launched on that path, and didn't last very long because I just didn't fit in. And I hated it, and I got really sick, and I literally almost died. And the turning point for me was when my son came home one day and said, "I hate school." And it was like, okay, so my kid might end up screwed up, but I have to feel like I gave it my best shot. So I made a decision that I was going to leave my corporate job. And at the time, my avocation was I'm a non-denominational minister. And I do very personalized weddings. And I also have my master's degree in holistic health education and counseling. And I did marriage prep and relationship coaching. So I took one of those, I call it that cosmic kick in the ass seminar, where you go, I'm quitting my job in 6 months, right? You get up there and you claim it to the world. It was sort of like the landmark of the 90s.
Right.
And lo and behold, I got a voluntary layoff opportunity within 30 days. And when they offered me the layoff, they said, it's because you don't fit into the company culture. And I said, thank you, and decided to go on my way. So I launched into my wedding ministry, Blessings to You. And, it was a struggle in the beginning. And I did also work for a magazine selling advertising, a Northern California Woman magazine. And I sold advertising. And then we also did events bringing together like health consciousness and issues for women and selling advertising and all that. So, and the media. So that was really fun. And, gradually I built my wedding ministry, and I got to, my son, I'd have my meetings with my clients at Starbucks, and he'd have his little hot cocoa and his Game Boy at his table, and I'd be over at my table and I'd be like, I'll pay you $5 if you don't talk to me. And people would be like, oh, look at that little boy, he's so cute. And I'm like, yeah, he is, isn't he? And so, but he did get that entrepreneurial spirit from me too. So, fast forward, I sort of started, the internet started to come out, and I kind of got ahead of the curve on the internet. And super long story short, over the next 10 years, I really built my wedding ministry through using, the internet. And I cracked the code, I figured out how to get to the top of Google, and I built my wedding ministry to over 100 weddings a year. I had 6 other trained ministers in my ministry, and I was among the top paid ministers in the Bay Area.
Wow.
And it was a great run of 20 years. It was totally awesome. I loved it. And until about the 15th year, and then I started to think like, okay, I really need an exit strategy, because it was like turning your avocation and your passion into a business.
Right.
And so it became, okay, like it's a very intense life. I loved it, but it was like, okay, I'm done. I'm complete here with this piece of it. So I started to help, just like in the wedding industry, you work for like 7 months, and then you have 5 months where you're like, okay, what am I going to do now? So I started to help the other wedding professionals with their internet marketing, and realized like, okay, this is fun. I really like this. This is really, this is something I could take in a totally different direction. And so 14 years ago, I started Whole Heart Marketing, launched, and decided that I would help, conscious, purpose-driven entrepreneurs, in particular, mostly women and a few good men, to really make a difference in the world. And so by me helping all of them, I could help to make such a bigger difference in the world. So now we're getting to really God Facebook. So about 5 years ago, it just kind of, in the beginning, my niche was, inbound link building. So that was like, how do you get people to your online presence?
Right,
a very, very narrow, clear niche. And that was, search engine optimization. I built websites. I've done all of that. Then it's kind of morphed into social media. And I started to, just really look at social media. And, I will tell you flat out, Facebook made me crazy. And I am not an early adapter on I'm not an early adapter on social media. I will not take on a platform until I'm sure that I have to. And so I finally, started to look at Facebook. And also for people who struggle with that, I'm a total introvert. And, it took me 6 weeks to press send on my first blog. So it's like, I started to, think, really, is this it? Facebook, is this all there is? And I kept stepping back, because I'm a thought leader and a visionary. And I kept stepping back and going like, what is this? What is this? And all of a sudden, I had that realization that Facebook is a powerful force for change in the world. Yeah. It offers opportunities for a level of connection and communication that does not exist anywhere else. And it can also be like high school. It can also be like that, like, I don't feel that way.
So
and
can.
And
did they unfriend me? Oh my God.
maybe not for everybody, but for me, that's how high school was. I'd look at everybody else and go like, I'm not happy all the time. I don't feel that way. What's wrong with me? And that's what happens. But it's
Mm.
also this powerful force for changing the world. So that's how I got to, to where I am now. And it's, with what's happening in the world, it's even more and more important and more powerful to embrace and really understand the internet.
Yeah. And I love, it's so funny because I know that often when we think of the internet, we think of the young folks. We see the
Right.
young folks killing it. We see them riding the curve. And what I love about you, Diana, again, is that like interesting dichotomy of like being an introvert and being an older woman,
Right.
and then being able to like, this is great shit. Like I
Right.
know all of this
Exactly.
stuff, and I know how to help you really show up. And I've done some of your webinars and trainings, and I've been blessed to do, I think, most of them for free because I keep winning them in
I know.
raffles.
It's just because I love you.
I love you too. But what's so great is just like what I feel that you are really focused on, and one of the reasons I keep showing up is that you are all about authenticity,
Mhm.
professionalism, really living your brand. Like you are your brand, so make sure that everything that's coming out on your social media is in alignment with
Mhm.
who you want to show up to be in the world.
Right.
And so many tricks and tips and tools for how to engage, how not to be that salesy person that nobody can stand, who keeps inboxing people with their offers before they've even said hello.
Right.
So what I love is that, to me, there's a sense of the maturity that you bring is actually much more beneficial, because that's where we're moving. These young folks have got it down, but here's the thing. We are craving authenticity
Right.
as a
Right.
society. We are so done being sold to. We just want to connect with other human beings and feel trust that they have something to offer us.
Right. And it's like that's kind of part of my mission is to bridge that intergenerational gap that's been created by the internet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes, I always say I don't say it. Ralph Waldo Emerson said it. Every sweet hath its sour, and
Mm.
that yes, there's all these issues about security and privacy, which, by the way, can I just say right now, nobody has any privacy or security on the internet. So
Yeah.
let it go,
Right? Thank
there,
you.
I said
Phew.
it. um, but, but, but there has to be this authenticity there. Like, so everything is energy. And if we believe what we believe all the time, then it's the exact same thing meeting in person or meeting on the internet, because it's all just energy.
Right.
So the goal is and there's something that happens for people around that, like, maybe it's the one to many, or maybe it's just the screen or all the technology, but it's really just the same as meeting somebody. The internet is a 24/7 network. So
Yeah.
it's really exactly the same. The goal is for it to be
Right.
exactly the
Right.
same. And that's where people struggle. And those of us who weren't born with a mouse in our hand, like I can remember years ago, my little grandniece Stella would be like, she's like 5, and I'd give her my phone and go, "Here, Stella, show me how to use my phone." Because she would show me really cool stuff that I had no idea existed, and it's like that,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we have something to learn from them, and they have something to learn from us. And if those of us who are of that, say, 45 plus generations
Yeah.
don't get onto the internet and embrace it, then we're missing connection. We're
Yeah.
missing that connection of sharing our wisdom with them and learning from them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So I want to backtrack just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you were talking about coming from the era of, I'll do it and I'll do it better and I'll work twice
Right.
as hard, for the same amount of money. So I want to hear a little bit about your journey with empowerment as a woman
Right.
in moving from the corporate being a part of the feminist movement, and kind of how you went from, I think you coined it like the feminist angry movement, into a more grounded and centered and present focused, heart focused way of being a feminist. So I would love to hear some of that journey.
Absolutely. So, so I'm writing a book right now, and my book, the working title, I don't know what the title's going to be. You know how it is. It'll be titled right before I publish it. And it's,
right.
But it's the whole heart path to my authentic self. And where that started with, for me as a very young girl, I compared myself to other people. I always felt less than, there's the better thans and the less thans. I was in the less thans. And I just really struggled with, like, I knew who I was, but I struggled with being who I was in the world. And so I just tiptoed out and then came back, tiptoed out, came back. It's one of those things where, I didn't get the reinforcement as a woman to be, because I'm an introvert. And so in my family, so my brothers are both extroverts and my mom's extrovert, and me and my dad are the introverts. And I did not feel seen. I did not feel heard. And so I didn't feel, and I wasn't like my brothers. And so I didn't get acknowledged for the things that were my special things.
Right. Which
was things like writing poetry, and, like, I'm a writer, and I play guitar, but I don't like to perform. So I'm my best audience, so,
right.
So I struggle with all of that. And, I got to that place where, also, I'm just going to share this, I'm a sober alcoholic, 40 years. And I got to that place after I stopped drinking and, using substances and all of that, to, like, just that, okay, who am I now? And it was really hard for me to find myself in the world sober. And I struggled with that for a long time, in that this, male dominated autocratic dictatorship. And, and it, in my family, it was that male dominated world as well. And so, and
I want to just stop for a second, because I really think you just named something that is really important. That many people who are moving from substance use into being sober struggle with that piece. I mean, it's like a double whammy, right? Like you lose the substance, and then you have to stop and take that look inward. Like, who am I really? What do I actually like? What do I actually enjoy? Who am I in relationship without this substance, and all of that. And I just want to name that, because I know that a lot of the people that I work with, that identity struggle is huge.
Right. And over the course of my life, I've come to that place many times in my life of, who am I now? I'm a ever evolving. I'm always growing. I'm always taking some seminar, some workshop, reading some book. And, and because I really believe that that's why we're here, is to continue to grow and evolve, and to express our purpose. So that was kind of the first, and even before I started drinking and all of that, I knew that was not going to be my path, but it was easier to choose that than to choose what I really truly knew my path was, which was the path. So I tried that. That's why I hit a bottom so young, I mean, I was done by the time I was 23. Then I still had to, like, okay, now who am I at 23 years old? Don't fit in anywhere. And I had to really, I think I had to just really come to that place of fitting in with myself and loving myself, so that I could then start to decide from that place, from that point of attraction, who am I? Who do I want to be in the world? And this whole thing of coming into our power, and so my original book was about, at 30 years ago, when I started this book with my master's degree in what the hell is wrong with me. Because I was sick all the time, and I wasn't happy to be on the planet in a body. And I was like, what is wrong with me? And I want to know, and otherwise I don't want to be here. And so So my book, it started with the relationship between chronic illness in women and the devaluation of the feminine. And that
Wow.
the most, if you think about like MS and migraines and, arthritis, a lot of the things that are more predominant in women than men. And you think about, there's no part on a man that's removed as frequently as the woman's creative center, the uterus. And it's like all of that started to just really, I started to really think about all of that. And what I realized was that the goal, and this is back to that sort of from the angry to the balance was, and this was like over, 25 years. And
what, it wasn't overnight? You didn't have like this major spiritual epiphany and like everything just changed all of a sudden?
Couple of weeks, actually. No, it was the process, but I was that angry. When I walked into, I went to therapy for a year, because when you're getting your master's degree, you have to do the year, so you're not a wounded healer.
Right.
So I walked in there and I said, I want you to know, I hate men. I never want to ever get married or have children. And I want to know if it's a reaction or a choice. If it's a choice, that's fine with me. But I don't want to get to the end of my life and discover that that was a reaction to the world that I grew up in. And I did learn that it was a reaction, and I did end up getting married and having a child. And I had a wonderful marriage of 28 years. As you know, my husband passed away about 5 years ago. And I'll tell you the biggest thing, the transformation from that angry feminist to we have to embrace both our masculine and our feminine happened with having a son. The minute I became pregnant, it was like, okay, and I know it's a boy, because I knew that I had to have that lesson. And what I learned, the very first thing I learned was, guess what? They don't start out that way. It's learned.
Exactly.
And women contribute to that as much as men.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
So, and that the goal is not to be all this or all that. And the goal is not the roles or the acting as if. The goals are to embrace the archetypes of the masculine and the feminine, and that there's a place for both of those in all of us.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to say that I did raise an emotionally healthy, enlightened, sensitive male. I felt that would be the greatest contribution I could make to humanity.
Yes.
My husband and I raised. But it's like, I think a lot more men are getting that now, I think the message is out there now, and it's just a matter of whether people want to embrace it or not. Whereas I don't think it was out there 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So would it be accurate to say that part of what you're saying is that, we have these kind of polarities, we have the masculine and we have the feminine, and that, I see this just as a general trend in our society, even in the way we're talking about gender currently, that we have these polarities, we have these qualities, maybe they're stereotypes, maybe they're archetypes, and that my philosophy is that whenever we're in polarities, we're automatically off balance. Mm-hmm. It's just how it is, right? Like we are automatically more invested in or more embodied in or whatever it is, this side of the coin. And it's not necessarily that we have to like go back and forth between the two. It's more like there has to be an honoring of both sides, right?
And
honoring of both. Yeah, exactly. Right. And like finding where my unique balance is with that, because
because otherwise, it's like walking like this.
Right.
And then what happens, like the goal, I believe, and I did a lot of work around this. My emphasis in my master's degree was in movement psychology, and did a lot of work with body oriented, practices and the goal, I think, is to come from center, so that know what, not like Diana center, but true center. And to be able to respond versus reacting, to respond to the world. So you're always coming from a place of choice.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
one of my favorite expressions, Kenny Rogers, when to hold 'em, or the gambler, when to hold 'em, when to fold 'em, when to walk away, and when to run. There's a
Yeah.
place for all of it,
Yes.
fight or flight, freeze or faint. There's
Yes.
always,
Yes.
but it's like the goal is to be able to choose where we
Yes.
come from.
Yes. And in the often the work that I do, we talk about developing the observer mind. So I'm able to feel into what I feel, notice how much of an impact that has on me, how intense it is, what it reminds me of, all of those things. And then I come over here to my kind of logical, reasonable, rational mind and go, oh, well, that makes sense based on my
Right.
history, based on my experiences, based on, what my body remembers. And then I step back into the observer mind and say, okay, well, that's okay. We become curious rather than
Mhm.
judgmental about our experience, and just like, oh, okay, I feel that way. I think this way. All right. Anything else? Like, okay, so now what do I want to do?
Right. Exactly.
I want to
Right.
come back to that place of choice always. And the only way to come to a place of choice is when we reduce the judgment. Like, we cannot really be in choice when we're in judgment.
Right. So just back to that place of, to your point about judgment.
Yeah.
So I was married for 28 years, had a great marriage, loved my husband. We decided to get married like 1 week after we met. We were totally soulmates, and we made it 5 months to make it look right.
I love
And,
it.
I learned so much in that relationship, and I always thought that I was going to go first. In fact, we had an agreement that I would go first, but clearly he broke the agreement. And but I know that we were both meant to go on to become the next best versions of ourselves, and
Right.
not together. And the interesting thing is, so once again, it was that, who am I now?
Yeah.
And I had this experience. So I went to visit my son for about 3 or 4 weeks. He lives in Florida, and to get away. And I did this kind of self-taught seminar of like starting to look at and evaluate every single one of my beliefs that would come up.
Yes.
Okay, why do I believe that? Why do I believe that? It's like, who am I now? Do I want to date again? Do I want to be in a relationship? What is my life about now?
Yeah.
Every complete reevaluation. And the interesting thing about that is after so I met my husband when I was 32, and now I'm 64. He passed it. I was 59. And it's like, looking at myself now, I could not complete my book until this next piece formulated for me.
Yeah.
And I actually am in a new relationship. Actually, we're not that new. We're about 2.5 years into it. And it's like the 2.0 version of my husband. And it's like that. And I really understand how, when people lose a partner after a very long time, it takes a lot to let go of what needs to be let go of, to
Yes.
let in
Yes.
this another person.
Yeah.
And it's just been like a whole new seminar.
What I love, what I love about the feminine is that process, is that flexibility, that constant reevaluation of who am I and what do I want. And for some of us, it happens through these life experiences. I know when I got divorced, like, holy moly, I looked around my house and I was like, why do I have any of this stuff in here? I don't like anything in my house. Like, how did that happen? This isn't reflective of me at all.
Right.
And then I had this picture of like the chakras, and I was terrified to put it on the wall. I was so afraid of judgment because I had lived my life a certain way and painted a certain picture of who I was. And I was in complete denial of my woo-woo and my spirituality and my, juicy feminine. Like, I had buried her so deep that she was not in any way, shape, or form represented in my outside life. And so I had to reclaim her and go through my own processes of rediscovering, like, what is I don't even know what the feminine is. Like, I didn't have any training in that.
Well, and the interesting thing is I think that's what happens to us, throughout our lives, is we allow ourselves to be shaped by the people who come into our life, by our children, by situations, by work opportunities, by everything. So we let go of certain things, we take on certain things, and it's not a bad or a good thing. It just is
Right.
what it is.
Right.
And so after 28 years of being married and back to who am I now, it was like, okay, what do I want to continue to let go of, and what do I want to bring back of from things from like 30
Yes.
years ago that I
Right.
let go of, that they just didn't fit in my marriage.
Yeah.
But now they fit in who I am in this new life.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing. It's just it's amazing. Like when I think about like my grandmother, I think my grandmother died in her around this age, and she had breast cancer. When I think about my grandmother, and I look at myself in the mirror, and I look at who I am, and the vitality and the youth and just the excitement about life and the passion for life that I still have, and I think about, like, I never saw that in her. So there's this cognitive dissonance in our brains around age and around
Yes.
like being a widow, which, by the way, I hate that expression. And even I hate maiden name. I never use maiden name. I always say my unmarried name.
Right.
I'm all about words. but it's just this, like, okay, well, who do I get to be now?
Yeah. Yeah. So what's interesting, I think I've brought this up in another interview, but it bears repeating, that one of the devaluations of the feminine is classifying that as being wishy-washy, changeable, inconsistent, unpredictable, unreliable. And I know for myself that I've discovered that to be completely untrue. That it's adaptability, which is actually something that is a universal quality that many people, recognize now, is necessary for us to survive in this world.
Right.
Like, we have to be adaptable. I mean, think about the internet, right? Like, this is what you do all day long, is like readapting to this new algorithm or the new way of putting, the SEOs, like all of this stuff. You have to be adaptable. And so I love, you're all about words, and I'm all about, like, the reframe, like, how do I take this quality that has been thrown at me, like, you can't be reliable because you're a woman, because you're emotional, because you change your mind, because you are a critical thinker, and might take a little bit of time to let it settle into my bones and my body before I make a decision about it. Like, those things have been classified as negative, and I believe that that's where our power lies. And, we have to kind of retrain this whole new generation of young women and let them know that we see that in them. Like, that's a gift.
Right.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. 100% with you, 100% with you. And let go of the labels.
Yes.
Let go of this is good, this is bad. Like, when my son used to come home every quarter, he'd come home from college, and he'd be like, I feel depressed. And I'm like, you're not depressed. You're just you're just slowing down from that three, 10 books a quarter pace of college. And he learned to talk that way. Like, okay, I'm just in and down, versus, I'm depressed, or there's something wrong with this.
Yes.
Or, like, I find I'm a super high energy, perky introvert. And so sometimes I'm in and down. And I find that a lot of people in my life, they'll try to pull me out, and they'll try, like, oh, is something wrong? No, I'm just in and down today. It's like, there's nothing wrong. It's very right. I mean, for me, it's like, I need 3 hours in the morning to be able to be who I am out in the world.
Right.
I need 3 hours of in and down time I realized this in my 20s, that for every hour out in the world, I need 2 hours in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
love that.
I have my every other day life. I have my in day out day life. It's how I take care of myself, and it's how I can honor who I am in all the different parts of myself.
Yeah. And I love the in and down. Actually, I have a friend who does, Qigong and Tai Chi, and not Tai Chi, Jinjitsu. And it's just fascinating how that's what she's actually talking about to reduce Zoom fatigue.
Right.
She's telling, because we're doing like this.
Right.
It's like we don't know where to put our energy. And so we're like putting all of our energy into the screen, but we're not necessarily getting the natural reciprocal energy back from the real human interaction. And so she's talking about having to come down and in order to stay present and not give away all of your energy when you're online. And I thought that was like phenomenal advice. I was
Yeah,
so I love the fact that you name that again. Like that's, again, recreating our language right now around how do we take care of ourselves and what does that look like? I love the fact that you said nothing's wrong. Like I cannot tell you as a therapist how many times I have that conversation with clients where I'm like, sweetheart, at this moment right now, there is nothing wrong.
Right.
And if we can keep reminding ourselves of that, even when things are really shitty, in this moment, nothing is wrong. I'm projecting myself into the future, or I'm focused on what this is reminding me of in the past. But right now, it's
right. Like
everything.
I always say, I know that I will always be okay, and I don't get to define what okay is.
Right.
I just know that I'll be okay. And that's like that total trust. And that if there's nothing else that I learned from the experience of my husband's passing, I truly learned how much trust and faith I have in the divine and in myself too, and just powerful trust in myself and in the process and in life.
Yeah, absolutely. So Diana, what is your definition of power?
My definition of power in this moment, in this space and time, the first word that came to my mind was choice. Because it all starts with choice. If I can choose how I want to be in the world, and that came to me earlier when we were talking about choosing your reaction, or choosing, sometimes a very fiery response is what is warranted. And sometimes just relaxing, creating the container, sometimes leaving, sometimes holding my ground, which is all the 4 elements of wind, water, fire, and earth. And it's like the power is really in true center. And from true center, comes vulnerability, comes presence, comes awareness, comes connection. So I think it all comes back to that place of being able to know your center and choose that.
Yes. And I love that you are not the first woman who has said, right now in this moment, my definition of power is.
Right.
I fucking love that. Oh my God.
Ask me tomorrow, right?
That's so beautiful. Like, to me, that is the essence of the feminine. It's like, hold on a second. Let me check in.
Right?
Which
makes some people crazy. I know. I mean, I'm one of those people that I really have to feel into a situation to make a decision. And this has been my whole life, that I have to go far enough into something before I can make the decision. And it looks like I'm going to do it. And then I get to that point and my gut says, no. And I'll step back. But it's like, it makes people crazy, and I used to care. I don't care anymore, which is that freedom.
Yes. Yes. And I love that you mentioned about the reevaluating beliefs. Like this whole last year for me has been reevaluating every rule that I have in my life. And just like, where did that rule come from? Does that actually serve me? Is it stopping me from living my potential or speaking my truth? Like, what is that? And if it doesn't have a use anymore, I write it down and I go out to my little fire pit and I burn it.
Nice.
I'm like,
I like that.
No more rules, and, part of that is hitting middle age and being in that, being able to review our lives and go, yeah, that shit didn't work. Like every time I hid myself or didn't myself or, whatever, that didn't serve me and it didn't serve my family. And it's like, I'm really there right now when it comes to, I'm kind of estranged from my oldest son and I have a great relationship with my youngest son. And so there's just this huge like discrepancy between my relationship with both of my boys. And I'm just really in this process of having to kind of be with some of my grief around the repercussions of me not being in my power, and the
Yeah,
repercussions of
right.
not speaking my truth when I really needed to. And not that I'm judging myself for it or beating
Mm-hmm.
myself up for it. That's not the idea or the point. It's for me to do that evaluative process and check in with myself about what I want to believe about that now, and what do I want to do about that now at this stage in my life.
Right.
And it's been a hard process for sure, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to have to dismantle some of my own like excuses and,
Right.
you know, justifications
Yeah.
and, you know, all of that stuff, and just come down to, you know, I dishonored myself. And whew, that's a hard one to pill to
Yeah.
swallow, but I got to swallow it in order to move on, in order to progress as a human, in order to become a better mother, you know, all of
Right. I
those.
mean, I think that we have to look at our part in situations and
Right.
be honest so that we don't just keep recreating the
Right.
patterns.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
I also know that we all do the best we can in the
Exactly.
moment.
Yes.
And, you know, beating ourselves up and holding
Yeah.
on to that stuff, you know,
Yeah.
there's no purpose for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's, um, I think that, again, like, so one of my favorite words is freedom, you know, and like, my best friend Janice says freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. And I'm from that, like, that's what I want, is I want freedom, and I want to be happy, and I want to
Yeah.
feel a sense of purpose in my
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
you know, and so to that end, what needs to happen? What
Yeah.
doesn't fit in my life, which includes people,
Mm-hmm.
includes anything at this point in my life that doesn't fit into that. I release it, I let it go, and
So what
it's
would you
so
say to
nice.
somebody, Diana? Because I know so many women, as soon as they hear that, immediately go into the, oh, but that's so selfish, you know, like, um, you know, cutting people out of our lives, you know, like family and blood, and like just all of those things
Right.
that like rattle around in our minds as
Mm-hmm.
women when we have to make a decision or we want to set a boundary and really live our fullest life by
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a tree, like cutting off the saplings, the things that are sucking the nutrients out of us.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes these are family members,
Right.
maybe even children. Like there are things that the societal conditioning that we have, that is selfish, that you are supposed to have unconditional love, and that means that you break your own boundaries and you know, do these things that destroy you in order to serve others. So what would you tell a woman who's in that headspace?
Okay, it's a great question, and it's, as a Pisces and a recovering people pleaser, I can tell you I have struggled with this,
Yeah.
and also a sponge. So what a few things, like my son told me I have to write a book about all my Diana-isms. So
I love it.
right. So one of my pieces of wisdom I can share, and this came from somebody many, many, many years ago when I felt like I needed to delete somebody from my life, and I was going to have, you know, the big talk and the confrontation, and she said, you know, just don't put energy into the things that you don't want in your life, and just put your energy into the things you want. And so for me, what I find is I already don't have enough time to spend with the people I want to spend time with.
Right.
So I just focus on those people, and I don't focus on the other people. So I feel the other part of this is, my motto used to be, anyone can do whatever they want. And when they say jump, I'll say how high. That used to be my motto. My
Right.
new motto is, anyone can do whatever they want to do, and so can I.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what that means is I'm still unconditionally loving them. And it doesn't mean that I have to continue to interact with them. It doesn't mean that I have to continue to um, be there in a way for somebody that doesn't work for me. And the
Right.
thing is, it's like, if a person asks a question, they have to be able to, I expect that they expect to hear a yes or a no. And most of the time when people ask questions, they don't want to hear the no. But they have to be able to, they have to at least be open to hearing it. They can not
Yeah.
like it. But
Yeah.
so it's like, that's part of it for me, is I surround myself with people who we have similar values, and we love and appreciate each other, and we're there for each other, and the other people, you know, I'm open to possibility. Like my friend Cindy says, I don't clog the conduit. You know, I don't delete and cut people off anymore. I'm open to possibility, but I also I have boundaries.
Right.
And the thing is, after having been sick so many times in my life, to the point where I almost died, I was sick a year ago for a year, to the point where I wanted to die. And I no longer, like, I really believe that dis-ease in the body is a way of, it's our way of saying no. So how I say no, I don't need to get sick anymore to say no. I say no by using words and with love. And it's a way of loving myself. And if I don't love myself, I can't be there for anyone else. So selfish, whatever, that's a label. I don't even know what that means, but it's caring about myself and loving myself so that I can be there for other people. I have a really big mission in the world.
Yes.
You know, and I have a really big life, you know, and you know, I feel like when you let the divine in, your life gets really big and you can't take it back. It's too painful. You can't try to make your life small by controlling things. You have to just, like, let things go, open up to possibility, and the right people will be in your life. I mean, sometimes it's somebody who, I've had amazing transformations with people who I thought that I should delete. And then I was like, okay, but let me reevaluate that.
Right.
And you know, what do I have to learn from that person? What's my part in it? And then when there's nothing left, then usually it dissolves on its own.
On its own. Yeah. Yeah. So you brought up something that I don't actually believe we've touched yet on the interview series. And so I'd love to hear just like a final kind of nugget around it. And that is that many women who are trying to become more visible, this is one of the biggest barriers and wounds, is actually the fear of success, because we are already kind of, many women are operating from a place of depletion in their own lives. They haven't learned how to fill the fountain so that they're giving from their excess. And so the idea of being bigger and more responsible and having more people wanting their attention and all of that is fucking terrifying. And it stops them from stepping into true visibility and really putting themselves out there, because there's so many fears about being sucked dry. And they're reasonable fears. Like, they're definitely reasonable fears.
I have been there.
Yes. So for you, like, what advice would you give, or what's your take on that, or your words of wisdom to really support women in being able to cross that line into true visibility? Because that's really what you're doing with the social media, is that you're helping them become more visible in their own marketplace.
So that's an interesting, I got goosebumps when you were asking that, because so I'm writing my book right now, and I'm writing my book. My bestie, Cindy Paulson here, and I we're like, kind of, we're able to dig into each other's brains. So I can call her up and go like, okay, what's my book about? And she can go, what's my book about? And we help each other
I
that
love
way.
it.
So one of the biggest fears of writing the book that I'm writing right now, the whole heart path to my authentic self, is, after I put all that stuff out there, I have to, like, really consistently be that person. It's like, after I tell on myself, you know, we teach that which we desire to master. The social media expert is, like, you know, on visibility. So I get it, is what I'm saying. And what it has to do with for me is putting myself at the top of my self-care list. It has to do with making sure that I am taking care of myself, that I'm having my in and down time. It has to do with, you know, really clear boundaries. Like, I used to do this thing where I would respond to people's emails like it was a text.
Right.
And people would ask me to do stuff. I would go, okay, great, I'll have it done today.
Yes.
Now I go, great, I'll have that done by Friday. Or there's a 72-hour turnaround minimum on this. Or, you know, you will get an answer within 24 hours. It's like, I started to give myself space, you know, and it also, I feel, in the business world, it really, and this is such a hard thing to get, trust me, is it has to do with working with your ideal clients.
Mm.
And not like in the beginning, we all take anybody because we just want to build our business. But eventually that becomes such a drain.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember one time I had this client and, you know, the people who want to pay the least want the most. And it was just like, so I was on my walk and I'm like, God, if you take this client, I'll never do it again. Because I couldn't really fire her because she was in the community that I was in. So
yes,
if I fired her,
yes.
I knew it was going to create some bad blood.
Right.
So when I got home, there was an email from her saying she was going to be taking a break. And I was like, okay, good, a permanent break. But it was just, but I really truly got that message that when we are in alignment with our purpose, when we are taking our ideal clients, when everything is in alignment, it's not a drain.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I'm just going to go back to my geeky internet marketing self, which is you have to figure out how to scale your business. You have to figure out how to leverage your time, which is the, you know, create a sustainable business in life, which is what I teach in leveraging the power of the internet. So that, you know, even like during the time when my husband was dying, in the time when I was sick, my business did not tank because I have a marketing machine that works and I leverage that, you know, and it's a really important piece.
Yes. And I think a lot of women, it's like a concept that's just
right.
And so I love the fact that that you're bringing that up, because I do think it's really important. It's how do we my Ann Jonas, you know her, she talks about working smarter, not harder. Right. And I know that's a phrase that's forever old, but I attach it with her because she says it all the time. Like that's one of her kind of mantras is like, women, we have got to work smarter and not harder. We're so used to exhausting ourselves and really pushing, again, working from that place of depletion. It's familiar to us. And when most women are not experiencing adrenal fatigue, I think we know we've won, you know?
Right. Like, how can I say no in an empowered, loving way?
Absolutely.
You know, and, you know, say yes to me. And maybe even it can be a win-win, or say no, or not now or later. And, you know, it's all these different ways of learning how to say no.
Yes.
Like,
I love that.
That doesn't work for me, you know?
So I think that's our next workshop together, Diana's Boundaries in the Business World.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Yeah. I'm there.
I would think that would be incredible. Just juicy stuff. Oh my goodness. I knew this was going to be so rich and powerful, and you're just such a wise woman. And I'm so appreciative that you took the time to be here today. And it
was my pleasure, you know, and I want to just say in closing to you that, you know, you're so deep and so heartfelt, and your essence totally comes across. And I felt a total connection with you, so that it's, you know, you have really mastered that ability to bring your total authenticity and your total heart and who you are to the internet and to this digital energy field, you know. So I really felt it, you know.
Thank you for that reflection. Awesome. I really appreciate that. All right. Wow. That was Diana. Oh my goodness. Do you use the second part of your name?
Diana Concoff Morgan.
Concoff Morgan. Okay. So it's not just Diana Morgan.
But because there's so many Diana Morgans that I just had to take back my unmarried name.
I love it. So if you would like to know more about her, go to the membership page. She has a little tidbit there for us. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. This was just enjoyable, and I just adore you too.
Thank you.